better understanding of what this is about. And I do want to ask all of you, your organization, to think about joining with us as a partner in this because you have such interesting backgrounds and varied experiences around the world. You could be a big asset in trying to pull all this together.
Is a lawyer in China, in Beijing, and they're getting China involved in this, and so that's how I found out about it. And then I saw this video, and I went, "We've got to get somebody on this program to talk about this." Now, I know our organization. I'm just going to say this: our organization has never had a civic project. We've never had a civic focus. We've always come together just for what we do. But if we were to think about developing a civic project somewhere, let's give this a thought. You know, I don't know how that would work. I don't know how it would work, but it would really be a possibility that this could be the avenue for that.
Rentabrain.org.
Yeah, there we go. Some way. But anyway, we're international and whatever. That's just a seed of a thought that I wanted to plant. I'm not on the soapbox about it. I'm just throwing it out there. Does that sound like a possibility of something, that something could be worked there?
Yes, I will say this. One of the things we've done just in the last 2 months is create a strategic arrangement with the Fulbright Scholar alumni. I don't know if any of you are Fulbright Scholar alumni, but there's about 150,000 Fulbright alumni from other countries who came here and studied and then went back to their country. And they're organized into about 50 Fulbright commissions, they call them, in 50 different countries. And so we're working with the Fulbright Association to try to mobilize those 50 groups. We're starting by finding the Fulbright Scholar alumni in Washington that are diplomats, or in New York at the UN that are diplomats. We're going to invite them to come here to brainstorm about that. Just as an example, we found out that the Vietnam ambassador who came and spoke at the Clinton School was a Fulbright alumni. His boss, the foreign minister, is a Fulbright alumni, and the deputy prime minister of Vietnam is a Fulbright alumni, and the science and technology advisor of Vietnam is a Fulbright alumni. So we started thinking, well, if that's the case in other countries, that could be a great reservoir, because Senator Fulbright was president of the University of Arkansas before he became chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Utilize it to the maximum extent possible. So with that, Dean Rutherford, would you like to come up?
Clyde, thanks for having me. My name is Skip Rutherford. I'm Dean of the University of Arkansas Clinton School of Public Service. And we are proud to associate with Mark and to be supportive of this project. Let me tell you just a little bit about the School of Public Service, because when I say that, people always look, well, what is that? And that's a fair question. When Bill Clinton left office, he and the then president of the University of Arkansas wanted to incorporate a higher education model in the Clinton Center project in Arkansas. And in looking around at programs all over the country and the world, he didn't want to replicate other good programs. There are great schools in public policy. There are great schools in government. There are great schools in public administration. There are great schools in public affairs. But there was not a school in public service. And so, based on the model of leadership through civic engagement, the Clinton School of Public Service was established. Ours is a 2-year program. It is the world's first master public service degree. And what separates it from the more traditional graduate programs that you know and that I know is that a significant portion of the academic credit that our students do is direct field service work. Over the course of the 2 years of study, students perform 3 major public service projects for academic credit: team-based, international, and individual. And by the time that a student graduates from the Clinton School, she or he will have had experience in all of these areas. So as we celebrate our 10th anniversary by higher education standards, we're just a pup. But over 10 years, we've made a real difference because outcomes do matter. And over these 10 years, we have performed over 560 public service projects, more than half of them international. And in doing so, we've done some extraordinary things like bring solar electricity to villages in Zanzibar, training women to become solar mamas, to manage the grids in their villages. We've worked on dealing with basic health sanitation issues at a village that employs and trains former child soldiers in Uganda. We've worked to put a dairy cooperative together of farmers in Ukraine. We've worked on disaster management and preparedness relief regarding the tremendous storms that often plague the Philippines. And the list goes on and on and on. We've taught street children in India, and we've built wells on the India-Pakistan border. And so we've done a lot of incredible things with this program. And in doing so, we again buck the tradition of higher ed, which is we don't have any residence halls, we don't have a football team, we don't have a student union. The River Market's our student union. We didn't build our own library. We use the Central Arkansas Library, which is 3 blocks from our campus. We devote the large number percentages of our dollars to service and scholarship and less to infrastructure and overhead. Thus, programs like GTED 2 appeal to us because these are actually deliverables that we can take, our students can take, can advocate, can promote, and can connect with the projects that they are doing all over the country and the world. Our student body, we take between 40 and 50 every year. Students range from age 22 to age 61 in this class. And about 65% of our students are national or international, and about 35% are from Arkansas. So it is a wide variety. Of the 46 students that we have in this class, we have 33 different undergraduate majors. And you heard me in the film talk about geology sitting next to geography. When you have 33 different undergraduate majors brought together by the common denominator of public service and making a difference, it provides for a very interesting and stimulating cohort. The good news is that we have about a 90% graduation rate, and we have a 90% career placement rate. And so our students are finding jobs in the wide variety that they're working on. Over the weekend, I received notice about one of our alumni who is working for USAID in Washington. He was on the team that was deployed to Liberia to set up the emergency clinics that the United States government has done. He just got back after 3.5 weeks in Liberia, helping build the emergency hospitals. We have a student in our class this year who is from Liberia and who, when she arrived in America this fall, had to take her temperature for 21 days in the morning and in the evening, going through that period. So the challenges and the opportunities that our students and our alumni are participating in are on the front line of what America and the world is doing. And so this little program in Little Rock, Arkansas, little by choice, by the way, because our program is very labor intensive, but we are able to bring the best and brightest to Arkansas, and we are able to attract the best and brightest from Arkansas. And so to have projects in our neighborhood of a former president and Bill Clinton and all his work, to have Heifer right next door and all its work, to have Windrock close by and all its work, to have opportunities like GTED 2 in our lap, it's an extraordinary place to go to school. But it's also an extraordinary place for people to get out and make a difference. So you see, our classrooms are hospitals and other schools and villages. They're not the traditional classroom model. So that's what makes this school unique and interesting and different. And since outcomes matter, very results oriented. So thank you for coming to Little Rock. I'm sorry you got to experience a tornado warning, but thank goodness it doesn't appear to be a tornado. And if Mark and I can answer any questions before we leave, we'd be glad to do that. Thank you.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, just maybe a little bit in the way of numbers. When did your program start?
We began, we opened in 2004. We accepted, our first class entered in the fall of 2005.
Okay.
So we are now, it's a 2-year program. We have our 9th class and our 10th class
All
enrolled.
right. You said 560 projects. Is that like 2 per student? Did you
3
say?
per student.
Oh, 3 per student.
Well, one is team-based. They work in a team-based setting. The other 2 are individual.
And that 90% graduation rate, 90% placement rate, wow, that ought to be up in lights.
Well, it's one of those things that I wish I could claim total credit for it, but when you recruit such bright, talented students, they bring records and resumes with them and do well.
I know some of the issues to those 2 numbers are things like scholarships and tutoring if you're not doing so well. You have some effective programs that keep those high rates going?
You know, we have both. Because we don't have a large overhead and infrastructure investment, we're able to devote a lot of resources to scholarships. And one of the things I've seen is that people come to graduate school with significant undergraduate student loan debt. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge. So we try to address that as generously as we can, and by keeping our overhead low,
Yeah.
we can do that.
I guess another location type question. You mentioned using the public library. I suppose you use the Clinton facility. Where are your classrooms? Do you have a facility for like classrooms?
We
or
do.
something?
When you go to the Clinton Library, if you see the restored train station next door to it, that's us.
Okay.
We also have additional classroom space right across from the river market itself in downtown Little Rock.
Oh, okay.
But again, we don't need much. When I became dean, there was a plan to build this great big building and brand it. And I looked at that and thought, you know, our students aren't here in the summer. They're traveling all over the globe and the world. Why do I want to do that? Why do I want to heat and cool a building that nobody's in just to put a big sign out front? Why don't I put that money in scholarships? Why don't I put that money in letting students go abroad? We learn so much. You know, we do programs abroad. We learn a lot more when we go than what we give. I mean, I don't mean that in a selfish way, but our students benefit from those experiences. And so why build a big building? We got a library next door. We don't need a big building.
Well, one more thing, and I'm done. Like, approximately how many students do you have, or you kind of your target for the number?
We take between 40 and 50 every year. That's what, and we want to stay that way because It's a very labor-intensive program. I mean, we're working with students every day who are, in challenging situations both in America and abroad.
So it's a 2-year program.
Yes, sir.
You bring in 40 new ones every year, so you got 80 in the pipeline.
Well, we end up in about 100 total because
Yeah.
we offer concurrent degrees in law, in business administration, and in public health.
Okay.
So we have some that are pursuing
I
those
just
two.
wanted to get the factors.
No, it's about 100 total on the roster.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are your students generally coming straight from undergrad? Is it young 20s, or do you have older returning students?
Well, the average age in this is 27. So we have them from 22 to 61. We do have some coming directly from undergrad. That number perhaps has ticked up a little bit, only because in the last 10 years we've seen these undergraduate students having far more experience, becoming trilingual, traveling more. I mean, some of these students, just amazing what they do by the time they get out of undergraduate school. So their applications are much stronger in 2014 than they were in 2004. Yes, sir.
Yeah. For these international projects, are those proposed by the students, or does the school propose those programs?
The international projects are collaborative. Some are proposed by the students, some are proposed by the school based on previous experience. We may have a project that we are working on that will take more than 1 year. So
Okay.
it's a collaborative nature. Students can propose their own projects, and
Oh.
many of them do.
And do you ever take proposals from the community?
You bet. We look for them all the time. We seek proposals from communities.
All right, because I've done work in Haiti and Brazil and Central America, Mexico, and there's several things
You'll
that
get on the Clinton School website. It'll guide you how to make a proposal. We would love to have that.
All
You
right,
bet.
sounds good.
You bet. Yes, sir.
Regarding the GTED 2 and the deployment of technologies to places where they're needed, I can relate a little story, but also would wonder how you could actually apply for such a thing. When I'm not wearing my village trustee hat, I'm also the street superintendent in my town. And for example, last month we had to replace 5 sodium vapor street lights. The sodium vapor street lights are notorious for the amount of electricity they use. But and we had to scramble out of the budget just to get the money to buy the 5 lights. But and we have a grand total of 32 in all of town. But there's no budget in our village budget to go through and replace 32 street lamps. And I wouldn't even know where to begin to do something like, for example, apply for a grant to replace them with things like LED lamps, which would save the village a lot of money. And or at the same time, we don't have a budget to travel to Little Rock. This is on our own dime. How would one go about looking into such things?
So we have a website that's called the Global Solutions Summit.com, all spelled out, Global Solutions Summit.com. This grew out of the program we had at the State Department in April of this year. A lot of information on there, and there will be more and more information coming along. But to your point about the LED street lights, this is really interesting. But the ex-chief financial officer of the World Bank left the World Bank to set up an LED streetlight fund. And so he's in discussion with some of our P80 funds that want to be able to make investments in things that would get a good return. And if you're able to save 92% of the electricity that's going into a streetlight budget, you can obviously pay for the lights. The city or village can enjoy good savings, but also the investor can enjoy a good return. The only person getting shorted on that is the electric company. That's their problem. Well, that's true, yeah. But then there's investors in the LED light companies, so on and so forth. But yes, so we're trying to create a virtual GTED 2 as well as the physical GTED 2. So folks that are looking for solutions like you are can come to the website and find the solution and get in contact with the companies involved.
putting a travel package together to travel to Arkansas from Nebraska is not in the budget.
Well, we're working on that too. There's some very interesting people that are supportive of GTED too, that have a lot of money. And so that's a good point. I think we ought to do that. Also, on the international side, the U.S. Trade and Development Agency has what they call reverse trade mission program. Well, they will pay for a delegation from a country like Uganda or someplace to come here and visit various companies that might have solutions, or schools or NGOs that might have solutions, and they do that on a regular basis. Unfortunately, I don't know of any domestic program that's similar to that, but we're working with U.S. Trade and Development Agency. Actually, the chief of staff of the U.S. Trade and Development Agency is from Little Rock, so they're very excited about what we're trying to do with GTED too.
Thank you, sir.
Smart when you look to open your doors.
For GTED too?
Yeah.
Well, if you come back in November,
Okay, that's-
we're actually, the first 10 exhibits of technologies are going in the existing Heifer Village building, which you were in maybe yesterday or Saturday. And we're also, between now and then, going to announce that the cities are creating offices of technology deployment demonstration. And we're already in partnership with ICLEI and C40 cities and all of that. And but as far as the actual new construction, that's probably going to start maybe a year from now.
Sounds like you're in the thick of it.
Well, we're trying to be. We think it's very important that this happen, because there are just so many great solutions out there, but they're not finding their way to the people who have problems.
Now you can see a lot of the things that we've been experiencing this weekend started as separate things, but somehow or another they seem to be merging into something we just heard about. We've been to Heifer, we've been to the library, we've been to advanced technology at ULR. Things like that are coming together with GTED 2. And then I knew nothing about GTED 2 until just a couple of months ago. My brother's been involved with Mark working on some of this with